You okay? You seemed a little off in the meeting room.
Start pulling teeth and taking fingers.
Yeah, Rosita seemed a bit off. Gabriel's out here doing the work. Yeah, Rosita is being irrational and seems to be enjoying the violence.
We broke her. Completely.
Rosita, I'm gonna have to ask you to calm down. We're all talking at normal room volume and you've got to start shouting.
And if we can break her, we can break others.
Nah, I'm not having that. You're getting a bit too ahead of yourself now. Why don't you just step back and let Gabriel talk for once?
I don't know the more pain and fear you pour over them, the sooner they drop the act, which is what it is.
Yeah, Rosita was a bit off in the meeting room. Thanks, Gabriel, for pointing that out to us and putting her straight, making sure she's okay. You're acting completely normal and she has to shit on you like that.
Start pulling teeth and taking fingers.
In today's video, we are going to be reviewing The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 10, Stalker. And of course, along the way, picking up on things and noting the foreshadowings that we see that do and will predict future events. The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 10 is one of the best episodes of The Walking Dead so far. It seems with Season 10, every single episode gets better and better. The music, as usual, was miraculously good. It was so good, especially with Beta's scenes. He made his mark in this episode as his own villain. We're finally really seeing what Beta is capable of, and he did it. In a Friday the 13th style, he had his own massacre, and it was so good. Not only was it good and, of course, scary, we saw how easy it was for him to take down a whole household of people. Every encounter that the characters had with Beta was realistic. Have you ever been watching a scene in a movie or a TV show and said to yourself, that's not what the character would do, you could have just done that? Beta did that in this episode. Although being such a smaller character, there's always been such hype from the fans surrounding Laura. She's only ever really interacted with characters like Dwight and Eugene. She was just one of those more well-known saviours. There was this one scene in Season 7 where she put a gun in Rick's face, whilst Rick had to watch Aaron get beaten up. So I, for one, do not care about no, obviously she was a smaller character, but it's still sad that an old saviour is dead. Especially in this way, and there's probably going to be people saying she could still be alive. There was a puddle of blood surrounding her broken neck. I don't think she's coming back, but it's just one of those things. This character never really had much screen time, and so she was destined to get one of these deaths that could have really just happened to anyone and not mean anything. When Aaron made his return from the caves, I noticed he saw all the new graves in Alexandria. Maybe he was remembering Laura and how she had developed in such a small time in the show, really. In The Walking Dead, we really see such a lack of reactions to deaths. Because so much is going on, they can't really sometimes reserve a scene for someone to sit down and cry and think about it. They just mention it episodes later. But I do think Laura's death is more of a headstone for all of the other characters that died at Alexandria this night. When they're talking about the casualties that happened, they will say, what about Laura? She was one of the very few named characters here. And so they say, what happened to Laura that night? What happened to everyone? Beta massacred them. The sad thing is, I just don't think we're going to get any scenes from Eugene finding out about this. We didn't get that with Tara, so I don't think we're going to get it with Laura. But Beta's Alexandria invasion was seriously good. The music, the action, the acting was all done really, really well. And I think it was all done very realistically, which brings us onto the next part of this video, Alpha versus Daryl. Of course, most of the Walking Dead fans are going to love it, but I especially love it because it shows flaws. The main character, the hero, does get hurt. It's not some domination or some perfect, easy fight. Daryl took out the surrounding whisperers, and he got hurt trying to get information out of Alpha. It doesn't mean Alpha's some super strength, OP character. It shows quite the opposite. They beat the life out of each other. I loved it, especially because this episode is called Stalker. Daryl is the Stalker. He's using stealth, he's smart. He's not just going to attack. Well, shit.
You see beyond the darkness? Into the light?
I'm not hitting him, just letting go.
I'm tingling with joy.
Look at him. He's bleeding out and he's got to listen to this. This is the worst day of his life.
What did you say, boy?
When people use the word boy like this in a sentence, it's always funny. But never did I expect Alpha to say it to Daryl and it be a million times funnier. Well, I didn't expect it at all. He's in his mid-40s. He's just laying there and he's just been called boy. A bad day.
I can't hear you.
That is some scary Dead by Daylight shit. That's a missed opportunity. They should have done that last October. Let us play as Daryl Dixon and have Alpha a killer on Dead by Daylight. There was a Stranger Things one and Netflix seemed to let that happen pretty easily, so get in touch with AMC, let this happen. In episode 10, Daryl and Alpha beat the life out of each other, and out of nowhere Lydia walks in after we haven't seen her since the mid-season finale. She leans down to Alpha. Alpha even tries and forces Lydia to kill her, but she of course wasn't there to aid Alpha, she was there to aid Daryl and save him. That's what she does. Lydia saved Daryl over Alpha, which of course we're not really surprised by that. I don't think we're meant to be. I'm just happy Lydia didn't kill Alpha. It would have been very unsatisfying just to have Lydia kill her like that. This is Negan's thing and I think we all know that by now. The episode ends with Alpha of course beaten and hurt, but feeling stronger. Ultimately what this did is just injure Daryl. We know he's not going to be going out looking for Carol. After the cave, Daryl went to go and try and save Connie and Magna. All the other characters returned to their homes, to their communities. Apart from Carol, I think she's stayed out there. Of course, we saw Aaron returned alone to Alexandria. I also think it's interesting that Daryl injured his leg because it means he won't be going and looking for Connie and Magna now. Which I do think they will return, but something's going to be wrong with that. There's a catch there. I do think this is the last time we saw them completely happy. In the way that I do think one of them's bit, which is Magna. But Connie as well, it's really strange. I haven't fully worked it out yet, but something's off and I'm, of course, at the middle of finding out what that is. We only have a reason for Connie being cut off in the caves, and that was the actress actually filming for The Eternals. Angela Kang said that was a decent observation, so you could say that, but you could also say, you know, she didn't confirm that. She could also say, well, yeah, she's actually dead, which I think is also really likely. That's what all the foreshadowings, all the clues we have on paper suggest. Something happens to them even if they do escape the caves. Of course, we are going to find out very, very soon. It's just alarming. We're getting to an episode called The Tower, episode 15. And then the finale being named after Andrea's comic death issue. Magna's looking real good for that one, and Connie, and Rosita, and Gabriel. And the same can be said for The Tower, of course suggesting the Water Tower. What exciting time to be a fan of The Walking Dead, not just a new show, not just CRM, a new movie series which will boost the show up massively, which would include some brand new scenes of one of the best characters that TV has ever seen. One of our favourite characters is going to get their guts ripped out. And the thing is with that, I've got so many characters in my mind now, about 5 of them. Yeah, I can actually only imagine Gabriel or Scott getting it. Scott, of course, becoming a bigger character all of a sudden. You know, that's not good. Do you remember me talking about the scene with Gabriel and all these unnamed characters? It means they're going to die. That actually turned out to be because the reason there were so many unnamed characters is because they were all Alexandrians. The reason there were so many unnamed characters out is because there was no one in. It wasn't the unnamed characters that were out of Alexandrian, it was the ones that were still there. But it's still the same rule. If you see a bunch of unnamed characters surrounding the main ones, it's not looking good for them. Which is why Laura got absolutely just obliterated, and Rosita was very near having the same done to her. When you laugh out loud about something, when you're by yourself, you know it's funny. I genuinely laughed out loud when Beta was walking along with Gamma. He was telling her all this stuff like,
"You're gonna fucking die. I will crush you. You will fall."
but then he gets ambushed, and I've never seen him move so fast. He was like, shit! He was saying all this dirty shit to Gamma, and then when there was actually a real threat, he legged it like a thief. It was one of the funniest things. And if you've been on the channel for a while, you know I've not been the best to these kids. I'm not a fan of the younger characters of the show, or anything to do with these kids, or any kids. But Judith has been so good since the mid-season finale, and you know what I'm going to talk about.
What's your name?
Oh shit. Get the rope. I'd rather hang than sit here and listen to Judith like this. Judith was actually really good this episode, of course, the main thing being she shot Beta with Rick Grimes' gun. She enabled me to see just Rick Grimes' gun. I just blurred everything else out. Rick Grimes' gun shot Beta. That's some cool shit.
If you'd met my mom and my dad, you wouldn't be in that cell.
Well, no, I expect you'd be on a pike or brains in the ground. I'm starting to like this little man. Sure, does the actor for RJ know where he is right now? No, but he thinks it's some funny shit, so I'm just gonna let him do it. It's so funny, because I bet the director said to him, you know, act scared. And obviously he's seen Beta before he's went through the door. And it must be the funniest shit having zombie Batman go after you. Why did the brave man die? Well, because he was standing in front of the fucking door. It's so good. If you actually rewatch the episode, he's laughing whilst Beta's at the door. You know what? I think I quite like RJ. Alright. Time for the final part of the video. The darkest part of the video. Once you've been watching The Walking Dead Season 10, it may be obvious to you that, of course, Gabriel or Rosita will die. Gabriel has become a hardened leader. He's unrecognizable from where he started off, and it's one of the best character developments I've seen in any show, movie, or game. As much as you'd think he's gone off the rails, so this must mean he's gonna die soon. He's reached the end of his story. What we are seeing is a hardened character. With Rosita, we're seeing a character not appreciate, not connect with the way it has to be. She continuously talks about someone not being there for Coco at every opportunity. At one point, it was just so out of place. At every opportunity we're hearing, the viewers are seeing, she wants someone to be there for Coco, and she will get her wish. Gabriel, Eugene. But I think Rosita will die because what we're seeing is her not connecting with how it has to be. Gabriel is pushing ahead, he's being a good leader. It's funny watching him lose control like that, but that's how it has to be. It's fear and paranoia. Underestimating that causes you to be killed in the Whisperer story arc. Gabriel was trying to convince all of these characters not to have that fear. Rosita was in confusion. Laura even looked to the left as if to say, why is he talking like this? That's weird. She hesitated to put that axe in Beta's neck, and she died because of it. You survive the Whisperer story arc, you get through it. You beat what the Whisperers are by being what Gabriel was in that meeting room. He sees it as an act, because that's what he thinks it is. He's not getting complacent, he's still got his walls up. It's because of his walls being up that him pushing forward will likely not get him killed. What we saw in episode 10 was Rosita take on Beta and nearly get killed because of it. The biggest foreshadowing that we saw this episode is, well, just look at this.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah, well that's plagiarism, isn't it? That's my outro line. Gabriel kisses Rosita goodbye and gives her his hat. Now you might remember a few months ago me saying that Gabriel's hat is extremely similar to comic Andrew's hat. And with their stories being quite similar, that would mean that he'd get her death. Obviously not just because he's wearing the same hat as Andrea did, but because he did it at the exact same time he took on that storyline of being a leader. At the beginning of A New Beginning, at the beginning of Season 9, he had this hat. He gave it to Rosita. Now, of course, he returned. It's not clear if he regained the hat, but him giving his hat to Rosita either foreshadows his death or hers. Gabriel came back from being outside of Alexandria and he survived. And so it wouldn't be one of those things where Rosita keeps the hat to remember him. He came back. He gave her his hat more as like a cursed object. I gave you my hat and I didn't die because I didn't have the hat. You now have the hat. Your story's ending. As soon as Gabriel passed you this hat, he was passing you that grisly ending to his story that he was gonna have, but you started freezing. If you go back to the issue where Andrea died in the comics, you would find that the reaction Rick Grimes had to Andrea dying would be that of Eugene and Rosita. Eugene crying, saying he can't go on anymore. Yet Rosita saying, you've got to stay alive, you've got to look after Coco, you're the one I need to do that. Hence the flashback that would actually make sense of Rosita and Eugene. He'll see this and he will go on. He'll be hurt by it, but he will move on from it. He'll look after Coco, along with Gabriel, if he doesn't die on the tower. Even with Rosita kissing Eugene, and it is real, she wouldn't do this with Gabriel still alive. So one of them do die, and it's things like this that confirm that. Just look at the fight with Beta, where she was hurt, why she was hurt. She has hurt both of her arms, and I think it's likely we're going to see some effects of that. What we know for sure is this is a very clever way of getting Rosita sent to Hilltop along with Gamma, so that she will be at the Battle of Hilltop. In this shot right here, the hilltop burning in flames behind her, it's likely she's saving Gamma. She sees Beta. What would the cuts on her arms even do? Why both her arms? She may struggle to kill a walker, sure. Maybe struggle to lift a weapon, get a full swing without hurting herself, or climbing down a water tower. I'm not going to give my final Gabriel comic death prediction until we're nearer to episode 15, but I think this speaks for itself. However, I've also still got 5 characters that are likely. There was a point in this episode where Rosita looks up at the windmill. It stayed on that shot for a bit too long. I've always known since season 10 started that this would be the end for Rosita. That's what I've always strongly thought. But did I think she'd get Gabriel's comic death? We'll just have to wait and see. But I want to know what you think. On the top right of your screen, you're going to see an eye icon. Just click or tap on that and you can vote in the poll. Do you think Rosita will die in season 10? Do you think it will be Gabriel? Or do you think it's just a completely different character? Have I got it all wrong somehow? Doubt it. It's actually pretty likely Gabriel and Rosita die, with episode 15 being called The Tower, Gabriel's comic death, and of course episode 16 being renamed after Andrew's comic death issue. That's both deaths, and I think Gabriel fits the water tower, so does Rosita. Both also fit Andrew's comic death. But then again, we've got Magna and Connie at the cave. It's all slowly coming together, and I want to know what you think, so let me know. And of course, what do you think of this episode? Was it good? Did you enjoy it? What would you change about it? Make sure you comment down below what you think. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you press the like button. It actually genuinely helps me, and will get this video more seen. And if you did enjoy it, then make sure you check out videos that are similar to this one. Make sure you check out my latest video where we talk about the confirmed locations of the CRM communities, which is of course Rick Grimes' location. And of course we break down the latest trailer for World Beyond, and it's one of my favourite videos, so make sure you go and check it out. And of course, make sure you subscribe so that you're the first to hear about The Walking Dead. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.